Welcome back to another edition of Coffee with Police Experts, ILETA 2022 edition, St. Louis, Missouri. We're here at ILETA with my good friend Dick Fairburn. Dick, you and I, over the course of I don't know how many years, I won't even say, we've talked about street leadership, leadership at the level that is essentially patrol officer, sergeant, the folks who are out there doing the work, as a vital, critical piece of law enforcement being done today, right? But also it's something that sometimes doesn't get enough attention in the training the trainer kind of thing, and making sure that the people out there doing this stuff are actually well versed in actual leadership, not just, checking a box. I attended the management class, I know how to do reports and I know how to do forms and all that sort of, that's more management than it is leadership. Tell me about some of the things that you've taught over the years here at ILETA as it regards to police leadership at the street level.
Okay. I recently retired from active law enforcement. Prior to that, I spent about 20 years at the Illinois State Police Academy. And we looked at leadership there, and where we saw a real failing in leadership was not at the top end, which is really management, not leadership, but we saw a real failing in the street level. Especially when we started doing things like active shooter response or rapid deployment training. We didn't see the sergeants, taking control of those teams and barking out the orders, being the drill sergeant that we needed them to be. And I think that's because in law enforcement, we don't train our first line supervisors how to be supervisors. We may send them to management schools, and how to treat their troops on a day-to-day basis. But when the stuff hits the fan, we need them to step up and become a drill sergeant and lead a team into an active shooter at a school or something akin to that. So what we did at the State Police Academy, we eventually developed a 3-day program that we called Street Leadership there. I have now rewritten that since I've retired. And it'll be called Blue Leader, and it's going to be affiliated with BOMAC Educational Services probably, because that's where some of the material comes from.
Yeah.
So what we created was really a boot camp for sergeants.
Yeah.
With the military, in the Army, when I was in the Army, it was BNOC, Basic NCO Academy. This is how you're going to lead your fire team into a combat situation and bring them home, because that's your job as a supervisor now. The feedback we've had from that training has been tremendous. The real hands-on leadership we've seen over almost a 20-year process now. We are creating those leaders. They're stepping up, they're taking charge of a team, and they're keeping an incident from getting worse.
So you've actually hopscotched right into my next question. You've kind of foretold what I was going to ask you, which is what is the feedback that you're getting from people who have now gone through some of this types of training? What are you hearing from people who are now the street leaders? And also, really importantly, what are you hearing from the people who they're leading, the followers?
The feedback from both directions has been good.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many officers who have said, I've been to a lot of bad calls in my career, but on this one, the guy said, hey, I'm in charge, here's what we're going to do. And suddenly we had a team instead of 4 or 5 cops each running around doing what they thought was most important, which is the norm. I can't tell you how many leaders have come to me and said these techniques work. And what they have found is they work just about as well in day-to-day operations as they do in a critical incident. They find a way to apply those same principles.
Yeah, so you could take, for example, we have an active shooter response for, just out of thin air, I drew that example, but more commonly you're going to have domestic violence, right? You're going to have 3 or 4 patrol cars come. If there's 2 parties, 3 parties, you're going to have to separate the parties, get their stories as such. But if you don't have some person leading that, because you've got now several different things happening at once in one location, you need to have that leadership at even what amounts to being, quote, an ordinary, quote, routine call. Without that leadership, without that presence of, this is what we're doing, y'all, here's how we're going to do it, y'all. That's the type of street leadership we're talking about. We're not talking about super high complex, the fire department and PG&E and all the, everyone's coming to this. It's a, quote, ordinary call, routine operation, right?
Over the years, we've all had incident command system training kind of shoved down our throats. ICS
Right.
This is really kind of pre-ICS. This is the kind of stuff that will keep it from becoming a huge problem if we get after it early.
Yeah.
And I've had investigators come to me and say, we got called. One incident was an entire family of 7 that had been killed with an axe. And this master sergeant of the state police shows up to take command of the scene, and he's like, what am I going to do with this? One of the things we borrow from BOMAC educational program is they have a little pocket card that has 7 critical tasks.
Yeah.
These are the 7 things we need to do in the first few minutes to get control of an incident. Won't fix the incident, but we'll get control of it. And this investigator said, you know what I did? I got my wallet out and I got my 7 critical tasks card. And he goes, it works just as well for a massive homicide as it does for some kind of unfolding shooting event.
Right.
So the principles are the same. And when you go
So
through
what you're saying is it is scalable to the extreme on both ends.
absolutely.
Right.
And when we practice these things under stress, which is what we do, we put 1 full day of the class is outside role playing, where you're going to do an active shooter response indoors. You're going to do an active shooter response outdoors. You're going to do a downed officer rescue, and we're going to throw the problem at you several times so that everybody on your team gets to be in charge and experience that. And so they're ready. A lot of them have said, I didn't know what to do as a sergeant, but I feel like today, if the shit hits the fan, I know what to do now.
Yeah. So now you're taking me again to the next question, which is you've got a 3-day course of instruction here. Kind of outline each day? Day 1, day 2, day 3. What do they kind of look like in some?
As I said, we borrow a lot of material from BOMAC Educational Services. Their original program is called Critical Incident Response or Initial Response, and it's an all hazard. So the classes generally include police, fire, EMS, and everybody's going to play well together. So what we did was pull out some of their material and then put a lot of police specific stuff in there.
Yeah.
And what they use is Model City.
Yeah.
And they run 4 different exercises on Model City. So we do those, and then what's different is we actually take some of those exercises outdoors.
Yeah.
And we break, the class is always broken into 4 teams, 24 people, so that means every team has a sergeant and 5. Everyone rotates through the sergeant slot several times, both on the Model City and in the scenarios that we do on live FTX day.
Outstanding.
So they walk out of there with the experience of coming up with a quick plan, running an exercise, debriefing it, and when we debrief, we don't talk tactics. We talk, okay, as a supervisor, how could you have done better? And of course, what do you think the first problem that always crops up is? Communication. Well, I don't think I conveyed to my team what I really wanted them to do, and the next time, they do it much better.
Outstanding. Dick, it's great to see you. It's always great to spend time with you, and I appreciate your time talking about this today.
Okay.
Come back again real soon for more Coffee with Police Experts, ILETA 2022 edition. On behalf of Police Magazine, I'm Doug Wyllie.